Good evening and welcome to the Howell Township Council regular meeting, Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. Can we have a roll call, please?
I'll read the opening statement.
Please, thank you.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner. By the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 3rd, 2019. By the copy of said notice to the Tri-Town News and Star Ledger for information and publication on January 3rd, 2019. By the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 3rd, 2019. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with emergency exits for your safety. Upon exiting the meeting room, they are to your left and to the right. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcasts on Howell Television. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich.
Present.
Ms. Richmond.
Present.
Mr. Russo.
Here.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell.
Here
Mayor Berger.
is not with us this evening. All right. Executive session, what subject matters will we be discussing tonight?
Good evening, Deputy Mayor. We have potential litigation and contract negotiations to discuss this evening in executive session.
Thank you. Would you please read the executive session information? Allison?
Yes, resolution authorizing executive session. Whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell is authorized pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 to exclude the public from that portion of this meeting for purposes of discussing specific matters as permitted by NJSA 10:4-12. And whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell intends to discuss certain matters which are deemed confidential pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 in executive session. Whereas at this time, the governing body of the Township of Howell cannot determine the time when the discussion to be held in executive session will be made public, but will disclose the minutes of the executive session when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Howell that this meeting shall be adjourned to an executive session and the public will be excluded in order that the governing body of the Township of Howell may discuss the items previously listed, and upon reconvening this public meeting, the presiding officer will announce, if possible, the time when and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in executive session will be disclosed to the public.
May I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
A second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Thank you. We now stand in executive session.
Yeah.
Good evening again, folks. And again, welcome to the Howell Township regular meeting of October 22nd, 2019. The executive session minutes from tonight's meeting can be disclosed to the public when the need of confidentiality no longer exists. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our community and our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, come on. Why is this frozen again?
Mrs. Sirianni, would you also make comments on our 5-minute public
Yes,
speaking?
Deputy Mayor. Please note that each person addressing the Township Council during the hearing of citizens and public comment section of the meeting shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to the Howell Township Council meeting protocol policy.
Thank you. Next, we have the September 10th, 2019 regular regular meeting minutes, as well as the September 24th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. May I have a motion to accept?
Not here.
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
The minutes of September 10th need to be tabled, but we can go ahead and vote on September 24th.
Thank you. Again, if there's no other additions or corrections, do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to approve the September 24, 2019 minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have a proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October. Councilwoman Richmond, would you?
Yeah.
No, I have the metastatic. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I kind of did have it. My apologies. If you would, please.
Excuse me. Proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2019. Whereas breast cancer touches the lives of Americans from every background and every community across our nation. And whereas an estimated 268,600 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer this year, and tens of thousands are expected to lose their lives to the disease. And whereas during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we honor those we have lost, lend our strength to those who carry on the fight, and pledge to educate ourselves and our loved ones about this tragic disease. And whereas, though the exact cause of breast cancer are unknown, understanding its risks is essential to prevention. Early detection is also key in the fight against breast cancer. And whereas during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with the mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, and friends who have been affected by breast cancer and recognize the ongoing efforts of dedicated advocates, researchers, and healthcare providers who strive each day to defeat this terrible disease. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about prevention and treatment of this potentially life-altering illness. Now, therefore, together with Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Howell Township, on behalf of the council, to hereby proclaim the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Howell and urge our citizens to work together to increase awareness and support education and research.
Thank you. And again, every year I make the same statement: early detection saves lives. Breast cancer has no parameters for age or sex. So males and females are equally subject to this horrible disease. Early detection definitely saves lives. Every year more and more things are done, more information is shared with the doctors, and things are coming out all the time to help us outlive the horrible disease. And I myself have survived twice breast cancer, so I am eternally grateful for the medicine that does exist. Next, we have recognition and a proclamation for metastatic breast cancer awareness in the memory of Monica Zeeland Hill. And I would like to call up, if you would please, the mother and a friend of hers who would like to speak. If you'd come up to the front, please, to the podium. Council, please. Come on up, folks. This is the metastatic breast cancer awareness in memory of Monica Zeeland Hill. Whereas breast cancer is the most common of all cancer among women in the United States, and second leading cause of cancer deaths.
More than 1 in 8 women and 1 in 833 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetimes. And whereas metastatic breast cancer, MBC, occurs when breast cancer spreads to other parts of the body, including the bones, lungs, liver, and brain, and has an average life expectancy of 26 months. Metavivers of New Jersey is a local chapter of the national organization, Metaviver Research and Support, a nonprofit, volunteer-led organization that exists to sustain hope for those living with stage 4 MBC. And whereas the Metavivers of New Jersey Facebook group was founded by Tammy Bowling and Lauren O'Brien in memory of a friend and board member Monica Zeeland Hill, and all the others who were taken too soon by MBC. The goal of Metavivers of New Jersey is to provide ways to stay informed, inspire action, and advocate for better laws and more funding. It also serves as a source of hope for patients, families, and friends impacted by the disease. And whereas the pink ribbon is well known for representing the fight against breast cancer, the MBC awareness ribbon colors only include pink as a thin overlay to signify that the cancer originates in the breast. The addition of the green and teal represents the triumph of spring over winter, life over death, renewal, hope, immortality, healing, and spirituality. And whereas we take this opportunity to remember Monica Zeeland Hill, who grew up in Howell and was taken from her family by this horrible disease at just the age of 35, as well as all Howell residents who have lost their battle or continue to battle metastatic breast cancer. Now, therefore, myself, along with Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Township of Howell, and on behalf of the Township Council, do hereby wish to bring attention to metastatic breast cancer awareness in the Township of Howell and support the efforts of Metavivers of New Jersey in the fight against this devastating disease.
Thank you.
So,
And I'd like to introduce Monica's mother, Mrs. Hill.
Zealand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Monica's married. And I'd like to ask Monica's dad to stand up, even though he doesn't want to speak. Is this on? It's important to me to encourage everyone to get educated. You know, go to the website and get educated about breast cancer. I had to do it. Monica encouraged us to do it. My husband and I have worked in the field of AIDS for many years, and Monica lived to see AIDS go from a chronic illness, from a death sentence, an immediate death sentence, to a chronic illness. Her dying wish was to see that happen with breast cancer. When she was diagnosed, she was already stage 4, 35 years old, a 3-year-old, and a husband. And I want to take this opportunity to make sure everybody realizes we're not just talking about numbers, we're talking about real people. We've lived in this community for over 40 years. And one of the things I wanted to make sure that I did tonight was to thank Howell Township. Thank all of the teachers who helped us raise our child. She did you proud. She was amazing. And you should be very proud, and we're proud because we couldn't do it by ourselves. When she found out about metastatic breast cancer in just a couple of years that she had to live, because she didn't live for 5, she only made 2 years, she raised thousands of dollars, close to $400,000 for research for metastatic cancer. She didn't want people to give up on people who had full-blown cancer. So you can see she was a very special girl, someone we could all be very proud of. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the people who helped us raise her and to encourage everyone else to take care of yourself and learn what you can do to fight breast cancer.
This evening, we also have some friends of Monica's who would like to share some words with you. Please.
Good evening. My name is Kelly. In June, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. Despite many years of mammographies, my mammography did not pick up my breast cancer. It was due diligence on my doctors and my gut that got me the help that I needed in a quick amount of time. I was asked to be part of the Mediviver New Jersey Council. Although I'm not stage 4, I have several family members and colleagues, as well as Facebook friends that have progressed to stage 4. And I was shocked to realize and find out that between 2 and 5% of the money that's raised is actually given to stage 4 research. It really does need to change. We're aware, we are pink, but we really need to get more research to develop a cure or to move from a deadly disease to a chronic illness. I encourage you to please talk about this with your family, your friends, look, research, because it does affect all of us in New Jersey, Howell especially. I'm happy to give you the website after, I'll say after. And thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it.
Yeah, want to do it in front here? Yeah. Thank you. God bless you guys. All right, and next we have a recognition for Barry Whalen.
Barry, you want to come up? Oh, want to come up?
Sure. It was a heroic rescue of a woman from a burning car. I'm sorry. I don't know why I left.
Nice shade of pink you're turning over there. This is a certificate of appreciation for Barry. The certificate is presented in recognition of his quick thinking and courageous actions on September 16, 2019. Without concern for his own safety, Mr. Whalen pulled an unconscious accident victim from her burning car. His actions certainly prevented a tragedy, and it's with extreme gratitude that the mayor and the council recognize your heroic efforts. Thank you. You want to say a couple things? You want to say anything?
I just want to say all the recognition and everything is nice, but it really came in perspective for me this past Friday when I got a note in the mail, a letter from the woman who I pulled out of the car. And I opened it up and it said, thank you for saving my life. And she signed it. And then it said, thank you for saving my wife, and the husband signed it. But then it said, thank you for saving our mom, and her kids signed it. All this is nice and everything, but you can't beat that. That's the best part of everything right there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move along to discussion. One of the things listed was the 2019 Best Practices Inventory.
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, we have a few other things. There's 2 more presentations tonight before we get to that point.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, I'm very sorry. Jeremy Braverman,
Detention.
Real Regional High School,
Give her detention, Mr. Braverman.
coming to speak on the November 5th referendum. My apologies. Please.
I saw everybody else did the other way, so.
You're special.
Good evening to the council. Tough act to follow. Thank you so much to the heroic gentleman who saved that woman's life. And my mom also is a breast cancer survivor for about 15 years now. So that was a touching moment, and I appreciate that. So I'm here tonight to talk about the upcoming Freehold Regional High School District referendum. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about the referendum and talk slightly about some of our state funding formula that we're dealing with right now in New Jersey. So the referendum is a $40 million referendum, actually $42 million referendum that we're going out for on November 5th. And I'm going to break it down a little bit for you so you can understand the purpose of it and why we're doing it and the benefits of it. So first off, and I think the most important thing, and if you're going to take anything out of today, the referendum is $42 million. And if the referendum, solely the referendum passes, there is zero impact on tax dollars. So the taxes will not go up. Now, obviously, there's the regular tax levy and your normal taxes on your 2% cap, but the actual referendum itself, if that is to pass, there will be zero increase to your taxes, which, again, is the most important thing to take out of this evening. One would ask, how is that possible? And the answer to that question is that Colts Neck High School is coming off of a 20-year debt service bond, and it has just expired, and we're going to take 2/3 of that bond and reinvest it back into the referendum. And that's how we're able to do this with no impact to the taxpayers at all in regards to the referendum. The second most important piece, I think, is that we're going to get it at a discounted rate. And the reason I say that is the state of New Jersey is going to pay 24% of the $42 million if the referendum goes through. So anytime we can get money from the state, that's a good thing. Obviously, the cost of the referendum now falls down from $42 million because the state's going to pick up 24% of it. And again, we're getting it at somewhat of a discounted rate because the state's going to grant us that money if the referendum goes through. So the referendum is broken up into 3 questions. and I'll talk to you a little bit about them. The first question is about approximately $20 million, and I'll briefly tell you what is in those in that first question. So you have, most of it is safety and security. So in front of all 6 high schools, building a new vestibule/man trap area, so when people come into the building, it will be more difficult to get in. There'll be a buzzer system. They'll sit in an area where they're not in the building yet, then possibly they'll be buzzed in again or they won't. So creating that structure in the front of the building in all 6 schools obviously is an expense. The next piece is the classrooms. So when we go into a lockdown, the doors need to be locked, and some schools use magnets and some use strips, and some teachers make sure the doors are in the locked position so that all they have to do is close the door. But almost every teacher, what they'll do is they'll go out and check the door first because they want to make sure it's locked. So what we're going to do is on every single classroom door in the district, which there are a lot, just put a deadbolt on the inside where all the person has to do is just take their finger or thumb and click it over, and then the door is locked. They don't have to worry about a magnet or flipping through a door or anything of that. And obviously that would be a large expense as well. You're talking about a lot of classroom doors. The next piece with safety and security is all the glass that is on the doors. And there's glass that are actually, as you've seen before, in classroom doors where you can kind of peek through and see that small little glass piece. But we also have a lot of classrooms that have glass on the left side or right side that are rather large. All of the glass entering into classrooms is going to have a film on it that is going to be harder to break through. So obviously the glass that we have now, or glass on your windows and so on and so forth, something can break through that immediately. There will be a film on it where, and I've read that it could take approximately 3 minutes to break through that glass with an object. So that would obviously be a bigger deterrent and a piece to get people into the room quicker. So that's a huge expense. The last is the PA system. Will be upgraded in different areas in the building so that we can hear things a little bit better. So that's a big chunk of question number 1. The next piece in question number 1 is really what we have in our schools all the time. Howell High School itself was built in 1963. We always need to do roofing, and we always need to do paving. So roofing and paving in all 6 schools needs to happen. The next piece is the tennis courts. There are many schools right now in the district that can't even play games or matches on their home tennis courts. They have to go away or play at a local park. It would be all new tennis courts in all of these schools. And the last piece is a renovation, or I guess I should say a small renovation, just to kind of get the Freehold Borough Auditorium back up and running. They lost about 190 seats a couple of years ago with some damage to the school, and just to kind of get that back up and running and keep the auditorium and get those 190 seats back. So question 1 is a big bulk question that are things that we're going to have to do anyway. And I'll get into what I mean by that in a little bit when I'm done talking about the 3 questions. But these are things that have to be done. We're going to have to do them regardless, and might as well do it when the state of New Jersey is picking up a piece of the tab for us. Now, I will tell you, and I'll go into question 2 and 3. If question 1 passes, we're in good shape. If 2 and 3 pass and question 1 doesn't pass, nothing passes. In order for the referendum to pass, question 1 must pass. So it can be 1 and 2, 1 and 3, or 1, 2, and 3. But if question 2 and 3 pass and 1 doesn't, nothing happens. So the state of New Jersey, they decided that we got 24% of the back from them in regards to the entire referendum. But for question 1 solely, we're actually getting 33% back. So there are items in question 1 that the state is more apt to support. So if just question 1 passes, we'll actually get 33%. Obviously, we want all 3 questions to go through at 24%, but question 1's actually at 33%, just a small note. So question 2, approximately $10 million, and it is upgrades in learning spaces and STEM classrooms. Everyone knows science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is the most important thing right now in education, and we're moving forward with that. So 2 STEM classrooms in each in each school, 1 to 2 in each school, and they'd be huge projects where we would have fabrication centers in the school and dust collection vents and different type of machinery and hands-on type equipment for engineering, and that would be a really important piece to the school to keep up with our modern learning spaces that we already have. The other piece in question number 2 are the bleachers in a couple of the schools need some repairing outside, and that would be for a safety measure. So that's what question 2 entails. Question 3 is turf field installation in 3 high schools. 3 of the high schools will get turf installation, a upgraded new media center in 1 of the high schools, and I've talked about the auditorium before at Freehold Borough. So the first question talked about kind of fixing that auditorium up and getting those 190 seats back. Question 3 is a complete restoration of the Freehold Borough Auditorium where they can actually redesign it, where they can not only fix the entire auditorium, but they can get more seating in there. So most of the high schools have seating of about 950 to 1,000 seats. Freehold Borough is in the 400 or 500 range. It's a small auditorium. If question 3 was to go through, we'd be able to not only restore and renovate the auditorium, but we can redesign it where we can get more seats put in there. So that's the difference of question 1 and question 3 in regards to Freehold Borough. So I talked a little bit about the state funding formula at the beginning. So the referendum is obviously something that is important to us, and to know that it's going to be zero impact on tax dollars for the actual referendum and debt service itself. But we're in a position right now where the state of New Jersey has a S2 funding formula. And the funding formula is at the point right now, and we are fighting it. There are 9 districts in the state of New Jersey that are part of a lawsuit. There are 79 part of something else, where we're explaining and letting them know that our district is not being treated fairly. So we got $50 million in state aid for 7 straight years. Everybody got flat state aid for 7 straight years when the previous administration was in office in the state of New Jersey. So everyone just stayed flat. So you had some schools that were rising in enrollment and some schools that were decreasing in enrollment, but everybody stayed flat for 7 straight years. So when they came in, the new administration came in, they created this S2 bill, and they wanted to fix it. So at that point, there obviously were some winners and some losers, so we would have thought and hoped that there would be a fair funding formula where we never have losers when we're dealing with kids, right? But that unfortunately didn't happen, and in a nutshell, and I'm not going to go too in detail on it to you, but we're going to go from 50 million down to 18 million by the year 2025. Which will honestly decimate the things that we have to offer in our districts and our towns and the 6 high schools. To lose almost $31 million over that time frame from now until, from 2 years ago until 2025 is really, really upsetting. Knowing the fact that we are the most fiscally responsible district in the state of New Jersey. We're $3,500 state average of per pupil cost. So we're not running with a lot of fluff within our district. We're running with a fiscally responsible Board of Education, superintendent, and business administrator who has us where we need to be without taking advantage of anybody. We've said that, and our superintendent has gone and testified in Trenton and has explained that, we're being punished and we're losing close to $31 million in state aid, and we're doing exactly what you're asking everybody else to do. We're a model. We're a school district that is $3,500 under per pupil cost of what the state of New Jersey averages. We're a school district who is a regional high school district, which is what you're talking about, is regionalizing and making regional high school districts or regional school districts. We are one of them. Please show us the formula. Tell us how you're getting to this point, and why is this happening to us? Obviously there's the 2% cap where taxpayers pay 2%. That's not something that we have discussed further with them or even want to go into further discussion with. We just want a fair funding formula, and we're going to fight the good fight for that. But unfortunately, we're going to lose if it stays as it is right now, close to $30 million over the next 4 or 5 years. That being said, if we went from 50 million down to, let's say, approximately 20 million, and the items in question number 1 were approximately 20 million. We have to do those items anyway. So if we do those items with our funding formula that I have right now, we're going to be down to basically losing close to $50 million. So the referendum itself is not going to change what's going on with S2, but it's certainly going to be something that's going to be important to us and help our kids. You know, I don't want to call it a Band-Aid because we still have that issue of the S2 funding formula, and it's a big concern of ours, and I don't want, you know, to make it sound like if the referendum passes, everything's going to be fine, because that's not the case, but it's certainly, if it doesn't pass, everything will be a lot worse. So in a nutshell, I encourage the community to exercise their right to vote. Obviously, I can't tell people how to vote, and nor would I, but at least exercise your right to vote and go out on November 5th with the understanding of 2 points that I'll close with, that I opened with. Number 1 is the state is going to give us 24% of the referendum money, so we're going to get it at a discount from the state of New Jersey. And number 2 is there is zero impact to your taxes. Your tax dollars will not go up at all in regards to solely the debt service referendum. And that's it. Does anyone in the council have any questions for
I
me?
will say that the S2 funding not only impacted, of course, the regional system, but the elementary district as well
Correct.
has suffered a blow. And it's unfortunate that this funding came up at all. And it's going to take several years for us to feel the full brunt of this punishment. So I truly understand. I was wondering, though, you talked about 2/3 of this money coming from the referendum that the Colts Neck is
Coming
now...
off the debt service, correct?
Oh, coming off, okay, very good. Understood, thank you. Council, anyone have a question?
So you're saying one bond is coming off, another one's being replaced with that, correct?
Correct.
And then I just want to say thank you because, you know, everyone on my block, you talk to everyone, why'd they move to Howell? Great schools. So, I mean, it's really, really important that we know exactly what these questions are. So thank you.
Thank you. And just one note, I too am a taxpayer. I live in the regional high school district. I have kids that are in the school systems now that will go to high school. I also moved here for that reason. I actually grew up here as well. I'm a Freehold Regional High School district except for the 4 years I was in college. And I love this district, and I love the K-8s, and you know, I think there's a lot to be said of what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%, so thank you for saying that.
I actually have, I have a question, and I'm going to talk about, I have kids at Howell High, but on the
I see the shirt.
Yeah, I saw my shirt. Don't tell my kids, I stole it out of their drawer. So my concern is for the other side of people who do not have children in retirement age or in 55 and over communities who do come here and voice their concerns about how high their taxes are and they don't have kids in the school. I would concur with Mr. Bonovich over there that people come to Howell because of our schools, and whether they have kids in the schools or not, that's irrelevant, but I think that's a concern for a lot of our senior citizens and a lot of people who do not have children in the school system. So what is the argument to that?
And, my opinion to that is, first of all, the referendum is not raising your tax dollars. So that would be my first thing, the passing of solely of the referendum, the tax dollars. Number 2 is, and actually somebody said it last night at another meeting I was at, if they lived in this town and they had kids come through, then, obviously
they reap the benefits of that.
They reap the benefits of that. And number 3 is with S2 funding and a referendum, if this continues and our schools get decimated and we really struggle, obviously we all know what can happen to real estate at that point. So that's another piece to the puzzle. Good schools, people move here for that reason. If the schools get decimated, people might not move here for that reason.
No, I understand that, and we keep saying that, it's at no cost to the taxpayers, but if it didn't pass, what
Minimal, yeah, so it's minimal.
I have to ask that question.
Yeah,
of course,
that's
you know
fine.
that, right?
Yeah, no, it's a minimal, it's close to 1% or maybe under 1%. It's so small in the big picture with the debt service because we're reinvesting 1/3 back in.
Right.
And we're not doing we're not doing the whole 3/3. We're putting 1/3 back in. If that 2/3 was able to be put back in, it's literally it's about 1%. Which is minimal on the tax dollars.
Okay, I had to ask that.
I appreciate
Okay.
that. I had the answer.
Very good, yes.
Councilman Richmond?
I just want to say
Russo?
thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm a product of the Freehold Regional School District.
I know you are.
Howell High School. I mean, I just think I missed you by a year or two.
I had your brother.
My brother. I I just want to, I've seen up close over the years how you guys do more or less, and I want to commend you for that. And I want to commend you also, after I graduated, I've been to Howell High School multiple times for multiple events, and I've seen it up close again, how much you do with what you have. So I just want to thank you very much for that, and I want to thank you for coming out here today.
Thank you. Thanks for your time and
Thank you for
service.
coming out.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Brickman.
Good luck.
I appreciate your time. Okay. Next, we have a presentation from the Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus, which is the state of the hospital. Come up, please. Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, Deputy Mayor O'Donnell and members of the council. I'd like to thank you very much for hosting us here tonight. And with this time, I'd like to introduce to you the President and Chief Executive Officer of Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus to provide you an overview of our services. Also with him tonight is Jay Tango, our Chief Operating Officer, and Dr. Moham, our Chief Medical Officer.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, Council, and members of the public, I want to thank you all for this opportunity. We have been looking for opportunities to be able to talk to people about what this hospital is today compared to what everybody thinks. And I will tell you, this is not the Kimball Medical Center or today the Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus that many of the public think it is. Over the last few years, we have put I came here 3 years ago. I used to be at Monmouth Medical Center in Long Branch as the CEO there for about 20 years. We put in about $15 to $20 million into the hospital. Some of that was physical upgrades, and a lot of it had to do with technology and program development too. And not only did we change the hospital, but we converted every room to private rooms there. Every room is telemetry capable. We brought in a group of physicians who are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who work with your primary attending or your private physician. So the hours that they're not there, they can only come in and see, certain times of the day. There's always a physician available there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to act on any kind of results or any issue that comes up. We've enhanced or even created 38 new programs in that hospital over the last 3 years, many of which I think, we're giving you a little bit of a handout in your leisure. You can read it, but when you see what's going on there, I'm sure many of you are going to be quite surprised. Some of the programs we've created have been models for our system. Our geriatrics program, for example, they've taken that now and they want to emulate that in all the other hospitals of our system. And one of the newer programs that we've done in terms of our cardiology program for our chest pain center, you'll hear about that in a few minutes. Our patient satisfaction, we now rank in many of the domains in the top 10% of the state for patient satisfaction. And our emergency department, which ranks in the top 10 in the state, is actually in the top 15% of emergency rooms in the nation right now in terms of patient satisfaction. In the past year, I tried to count them up. We had about 2,000 Howell residents that utilized our services at that institution, and about 865 residents came through our emergency department, either on their own or brought in by the EMS squads. That's a small number compared to the total number of residents in Howell, and we certainly would like to change that over some time. So our goal really is to convince you or become your hospital of choice for the area here, and also to help you improve the health of your community. In the past, all hospitals were judged just by the care they gave in the hospital. If you came in sick and came out in good shape, then it was a great outcome. Nowadays, we are going to be judged, and we're being judged right now by the health of the community that we're serving. And frequently that means people not having to come to the hospital if you did your job right. I've spoken to other mayors. I'm from a little bit further north, and I say, you know what, that same thing is going to take place in the city administration too. They're going to be judged also by the health of the communities that they're currently serving. So, our offer to you, and we'd like to do it, is to let us partner with you in anything that you would like to bring into the community. We're not trying to drag everybody down to the hospital, whether it be screenings, educational sessions, anything along that line. We'd be very, very happy to do that. And one of the things that I believe that is a plus with currently with our healthcare system, which I'm sure you all know is Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Health, within our system there is virtually any type of care that you could possibly think of, from heart transplants to, we do have the only at National Cancer Institute certified cancer center in the whole state, our Cancer Institute of New Jersey. So that what I'm really saying is that if there's a much higher level of care required when somebody's at our hospital, we move them right into that much higher level of care. And some of that higher level of care can't be found anywhere around here too. So again, I thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Mohan, who's going to quickly, hopefully briefly, and we want to respect your time because I saw that agenda you had out ahead of you. And, God bless you. But, so Dr. Mohan?
Thank you. Good evening, Doctor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Vozos, and councilmen and fellow citizens of Howell. I'm going to be brief, and this is a very important topic, as Dr. Vozos mentioned. We've brought in a lot of new technology to Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus. The technology that I'm going to be talking about right now, it's called FFRCT, and this is the first in the state of New Jersey, where we are offering this technology to any patient who comes in through the emergency room. This technology is also available for folks with suspected cardiac disease who are not coming through the emergency room and who go through their primary care physicians and cardiologists. This technology, although it's a small community hospital, Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus, however, with this technology, we are only of about 150 centers throughout the world with this technology. Places like Duke University Medical Center, Scripps in California, and William Beaumont Hospital in Detroit, they are the folks who are introducing this technology. So we are really cutting edge. This was presented at the American College of Cardiology earlier this year, and this is supposedly to transform cardiac care as we speak. So just to give you, I have no financial disclosures. These are the physicians who are very well trained. Dr. Joseph Triolo, who's the chair of radiology at our place and Monmouth South and Community Medical Center. Dr. Doug Gibbons, who was the chair of radiology before. He was trained at Mass General. It's me. I was trained at New York Medical College in Tennessee and then University of Maryland and back to New Jersey. Dr. Kadosh, who was trained at Maimonides Medical Center. Dr. Mehra, who's also medical director of our vascular institute. We do peripheral vascular interventions, was trained at RWJ and did his interventional fellowship at Brown University. Dr. Avinash Gupta, who trained at Downstate. Dr. Patel, who trained at University of Kentucky, and Dr. Kate, who trained at Deborah. So these are well-qualified, fellowship-trained, board-certified, multiple board-certified physicians who practice at our place, and we brought a team together, which is, we are a kind of envy of not only other hospitals in the system, but also the state to provide this service. So just to give you an overview, there are about 8 to 10 million patients who come into the chest pain every year throughout the country. About 9 out of those 10 patients, 90% of those 10 patients, 90% of those patients who come in with chest pain into the ER do not have a heart attack. So let me say that again. 9 out of 10 patients who come in with chest pain to the emergency room do not have a heart attack. These folks, unfortunately, 6 out of 10, they end up in the hospital with unnecessary testing. And they stay in the hospital for sometimes more than 24, 48 hours. On the flip side of it, 5% of the patients who come into the ER with chest pain and then get discharged, they unfortunately go out and have a heart attack and die within 30 days. So we are over-treating a certain subset, a large majority of patients, and we are under-treating a certain subset, which is significant. It's 5%, but for those 5% of folks who go out and have a heart attack within 30 days, it is significant. So this program, what we have, which is a cardiac CT, it is safe. It is just like any other CAT scan. What we do, it basically, once you have your cardiac CT done and it is normal, it reduces your ER visits subsequently. It definitely decreases your readmissions, and it decreases your stay in the hospital by almost 50%. This is just an article that I published in 2002, where we found a patient with a heart attack, and the arrow points out the area where the blockage is, and it does not look severe, so we passed an intravascular ultrasound inside the heart artery, and the small tiny black hole that you see on the side, that was the lumen, or the blood, the area where the blood flow was. The rest of the stuff was all blood clots. So when we do any testing, it is either non-invasive or invasive. We prefer non-invasive because invasive has its own risk associated with that. And we have the non-invasive test, which is stress test. Most of you must be aware of it, echocardiogram, and there's a high false positives of that, and also high false negatives. That means we miss a lot, and we do unnecessary testing on patients who do not require that. So this is the cardiac CT. So if you look at the first picture, that is one of the picture of one of the blood vessels, which is entirely normal with no blockage. On the second picture, there's a small flick in the top part of it, which is a little calcium score with a bright white part of it. And the third and fourth, you have a lot of blockages. So I do not want to belabor you on this, but however, the first one we can send out of the emergency room without any problem, which is most of the patients. The second one is only medical treatment, which again can go back to home out of the emergency room without any problems. It is the third and the fourth one which we do not know what to do because there are obviously significant blockages. So what we do with this, with these kind of blockages that are evidenced in, by the cardiac CT, we do what is known as FFR, which is fractional flow reserve. This is now number one line of test in the National Health Service in the UK, and is soon to be coming to the US as well. Currently it is one of the choices, but it is number one line of test that is supposed to be coming in, and we are at the forefront of this cutting edge technology. So what this does is the FFR, it gives you a diagram of all your blood vessels and gives you a number, and tells you how significant every single blockage if you have, and whether you need to treat it medically or through stents or bypass surgery. So it is a better measurement. It has already been published in New England Journal and the Journal of American College of Cardiology, and it tells you whether there is that blockage that you see, the yellow part with the wire going in, whether that is significant or not. We can actually do that without passing any wires, without doing any heart catheterization, just on the basis of cardiac catheterization. I'm going to try to move ahead because, so this one, if you see on the right side, that is a squiggly thing, that is actually a heart artery. And on the very top of it, you'll see where there's a little blush, that is where the blockage is. That procedure that you do invasively to a diagnostic cardiac catheterization, you can actually do with a CAT scan without taking them to the cardiac cath lab and doing invasive procedure. So I'll give you an example. This is a 52-year-old male with high cholesterol, had some chest pain, and completed 39 marathons without any symptoms. So had a cardiac CT, and in the middle of the right squiggly line that you see down, you see some blockage with an arrow, and the yellow part is the stress test part of it, which shows it was normal. So it was decided at that time, based on the stress test part of it, that the patient could be treated medically and did not require any stent or bypass. Unfortunately, 1 year later, the patient had a cardiac arrest, was revived, and had a cardiac catheterization, and where you see that arrow, that is where the artery is blocked off. And eventually he had a stent. However, his heart function had decreased from normal to about 40–45%. So what they did was, with that cardiac CT that was done, they did the computational analysis with a computer and found out that the number was 0.52, which you can see. And if they had actually had this technology at that time, the patient would have had the stent at that time and did not have to go through the cardiac arrest. This is an 87-year-old female who actually ended up getting stress tests almost every other year or so. They were all normal. However, when we did the CAT scan, it showed significant blockages, and the stress test was falsely normal. So in a nutshell, basically what this technology does is it decreases your unnecessary cardiac catheterization. There is a National Cardiovascular Data Registry which tabulates every single patient who has a cardiac catheterization throughout the country. And based on that, 73%, almost 3 out of 4 patients who have their heart catheterization do not have any significant blockage. So let me say that again. I think it is important to know 3 out of 4 people who have heart catheterizations in all the hospitals throughout the country, including some of the hospitals around the area, do not have any significant blockage. That means that they did not have to undergo that unnecessary invasive procedure with its associated risks, which can be avoided by the CAT scan that we have now at Monmouth South. So what was found also with the cardiac CAT scan was that once we diagnose any blockage, it is almost 90+% accurate. That means 90+% of those folks who underwent a cardiac CT and have significant blockage, they ended up requiring a stent or bypass, as opposed to when you do a stress test or do a diagnostic cardiac catheterization, only 1 out of 4 need a stent or a bypass. So this has significant savings, throughout the healthcare system, as well as to hospitals. And most importantly, from a physician perspective, it is safe for the patient. It is unnecessary avoidance of unnecessary invasive procedures. These are the only handful of contraindications. This is why we cannot do any cardiac CT if they're allergic to any iodine contrast, and if they have kidney disease, or if they're having a heart attack. When a patient is having a heart attack, you take them to the cardiac cath lab, you put in a stent, send them for bypass surgery. But this is for those 9 out of 10 patients who are coming in through the emergency room. They do not need any invasive procedures. So this did not come out well, I think, on this plan over here. So this is a little vignette that I wrote. FFRCT brings together human intelligence and artificial intelligence, which is this computer-generated model through the CAT scan, to diagnose non-invasively coronary artery disease with exceptional accuracy while avoiding unnecessary invasive testing in a vast majority of patients. So this technology that we have at Monmouth South has a potential to change the dynamics of how coronary artery disease is seen and evaluated, not only throughout the state, but throughout the country and possibly the world as well. So I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your interest.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. I do have a question. Maybe 10 years ago, I know that they were doing a test where they were actually, it was a CT, they were actually taking the pictures of the heart as it's beating. It was actually slices of the heart, as you were watching on the CT. Is this in the same vein as that?
This is exactly the same thing.
Okay.
However, the technology that we have, it is probably, so I was one of the founding members of the cardiac CT program throughout the state. It's called the Society of Cardiovascular CT. So at that time, the technology was not as advanced as it is right now. So it is the same. We take the pictures of a beating heart, and we actually did some cases today ourselves. It takes 3 heartbeats to get the pictures. And the test is very short, and then we analyze it with the computer, which gives us the additional information.
Yeah, as I recall, it was a testing, I think originally it was on firemen and policemen.
Right.
And that was part of the initial program.
Plus the older versions of the CAT scan were smaller, let me say smaller number of slices. This is a 128 slice CT scan, so it's much more rapid slices. And when you see the actual picture, I wish we could have brought some here. You think you're looking at a heart, with the vessels coming around it, because even the color and everything else is it's very advanced on the CAT scan.
Thank you, very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, very nice.
All right, next, the discussion of the 2019 best practices inventory. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that, as all the information we've gone over in our packets?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, just to give the council a very small overview, the 2019 best practices inventory included a total of 84 questions. 31 of them were unscored survey questions, and 53 of them were scored questions, to which the township affirmatively answered 43 of them. The minimum requirement for not having any state aid withheld was 30. So the township performed very well in this regard. So the township won't have any state aid withheld as a result of this best practices survey. As per local government services, they just asked that we have a public discussion if there were any questions by the council. Once the meeting is done with, the best practices survey will be sent to the state tomorrow and posted on the township website.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions on this issue?
No. Good job there, Lou.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the hearing of the citizens, and this is on the consent agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak on this?
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor, if I could just read into the record just a couple of changes that were made between
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
preliminary agenda to the final.
Please.
Added to the agenda, Resolution R-19-360, item 9A24, authorize appointment of acting township clerk effective November 6, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, and as municipal clerk effective January 1, 2020. Ordinance O-19-55, item 11.8, amend Chapter 7-11 entitled Speed Limits and Schedule 16 in order to establish a reduced rate of speed. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, public comments on the consent agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak?
Deputy Mayor, there's nobody on the list tonight, but if anybody
Okay.
from the public would like to come up.
Good evening. Name and address.
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street, Howell. First, I want to say thank you for honoring those with breast cancer. My mother just went cancer-free as of February. Year of hard year. So my cousin also, at 33, had a double mastectomy. So if cancer's out there, it doesn't take an age limit. It doesn't take anything. Get out there, get checked, men, women, do your appointments. First one, I don't have many tonight, 9A.18. The all-access equipment. How are we paying for this?
This is being paid for out of the Shade Tree Trust.
Okay. Is this a piece of equipment that will go along with our shared service agreements that anybody can borrow from us?
We haven't had that discussion yet, but this is an aerial platform that can access through a 36-inch wide gate and a fence, and it's meant to be utilized along open space properties, front or backing up to residences that we have complaints about potentially dangerous tree limbs or things like that, where we cannot get a bucket truck back there to physically remove those limbs that are hanging over. This unit is on tracks. It will be able to go through small fence gates and then extend, I believe the height is 83 feet, up in the air to get our workers safely to where they need to be.
Yes, it's also good for changing lights on field use and all that. It's a very good product. There's a lot of usage on it. We just pay all this money, and if we're going to be allowing everybody else That's my only stipulation.
I did
have no-
speak to DPW today, and that was actually one of the discussion items, was if it's not being used for tree truck service, because we only have one bucket truck, this could be utilized by our buildings and grounds guys here, actually, a lot, because we have to replace light bulbs here, clean the windows. We can do it at some of our fields.
Fields are too high, so the regular bucket truck doesn't reach them.
Correct.
And it's $1,600 to rent one that will reach it. So
Correct.
it's a good piece of equipment. It should be purchased.
Do you want to utilize it for your job? We can get a shared service going.
That's what I said. Maybe we'll do a shared service for
Well.
that. It's expensive.
Tell
so-
Pete, we'll talk.
All right, I'll tell him. Tell him to give you a call. So that's just it. I just think, even if it is whichever, if I think we're paying for it as taxpayers, that even if it's not a lot, maybe we should get something to help offset the cost if we're letting other people use it. That's my only concern. 9A19, I just don't understand what it is.
This is a co-location on one of our existing cell towers at the Police Athletic League building on West Farms Road. So this is, Crown Castle is proposing to co-locate another antenna on our existing property on the tower, and this is the lease. It'll be a 5-year lease with 4 5-year renewals, and there's a 3% increase every year.
So it's money we're getting. We're not paying.
That's correct. It's coming to the town.
As long as we're getting money, huh?
Yep.
So be it. The lockbox, 9A21,
So this is the Pay Our Go system, which is for electronic payments in tax and sewer. Mr. Palazzo has recommended this for tonight, and I'll let him speak a little more on it.
Sure. It's, we are, when somebody uses their online banking system and they use the bill pay, the bank issues the township an actual check. And currently, those checks get mailed to the township en masse, and our staff inputs them into the system, posts them, and then we deposit them into our account. What this is going to do is a third-party administrator is going to process those payments for us and send us a file listing all of those who made payments, and then deposit those funds straight into our account. So it's gaining some efficiencies in the department.
okay, so eventually we're going over to the admin system, correct?
That is correct. Well,
Will that help with that?
in tax, we have already been on the admin
Yes.
system. Correct.
So will this also help with that? Do the two work together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The only other questions I have, changes. Why are we changing? What are we changing? I heard there's 2 changes in ordinances.
Yes, there's 2 changes this evening. One is the appointment of an acting township clerk and appointment of the municipal clerk. And that is actually for Allison to be named the township clerk once Penny retires. Secondly, it's an ordinance to lower a speed limit in Freewood Acres, and quite frankly, in a necessary need to get business done. We had not gotten this to the agenda on Thursday, so we got it on the final agenda and figured no one was going to complain about us lowering a speed limit in Freewood Acres. So in a need to get business done, because otherwise we'd wait until next year.
It's not going any lower than it is right now with the roads the way they are.
Well, yeah, you're right.
So, okay, so, sorry, Allison, but I have to ask. Have we negotiated a contract? Have we done anything? What is the stipulation, hiring clerk?
So, under our ordinances, Allison's going to be the deputy clerk, and she'll be acting clerk for November through December. Also, under our ordinances, her pay remains the same as it is for deputy clerk. Beginning in January, she'll be paid at a level that's consistent with our salary ordinances, but that's being negotiated, and so, of course, we can't discuss it.
So shouldn't we wait to do the final approval until we've gone over the contract?
We can't discuss it right now. I can't be more clear about this.
If it can't be discussed, it shouldn't be voted on, that portion of it.
They can vote on whether or not she can be appointed clerk.
Whether they
And
can
the
and whether
salary
they
will be
should.
consistent with the salary ordinance, and that's to be negotiated.
Personally, I don't like changes in anything before I have a chance to read them. I read over the other one, I kind of understood it. This one, I don't know what you exactly are changing. I don't like the fact that, you know, I understand going to the end of the year, you're on the same salary. Until a contract is negotiated, how do we know that Allison wants to take what you're offering? How do you know you want to take what Allison's offering? I mean, why are we jumping the gun on this? Why don't we just wait until January and then appoint, or December? Just talk. It could go either way. Allison might not like it, you might not like it. It's no big deal if you wait and discuss salary and to make sure everybody's on the same common ground.
Again,
That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for your comments.
Anyone else would like to speak?
Hi, Patricia Isbrat Kelly, ISB RECHT KELLY. I'm here to talk about the Howell Family Apartments and giving them back their bond of
$15,000.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little, I should not be nervous. I've been up here plenty of times. I don't think they should have their money back yet. They do still have quite a large pile of dirt on their property that they're going to have to do something with. Also, in the last meeting that this was voted on, there was comment of giving them back their money to show good faith, goodwill. The Walters Group has not shown Howell Township or their neighbor good faith or goodwill from the start of this project, even though Howell Township pretty much gave them carte blanche to do whatever they wanted over there. So good faith, I don't sit well with because Walters Group is showing absolutely none, especially when I just wanted to update some people because you did fight for my berm and CME did fight for my berm. And I have some updated pictures from Saturday before the rains on Sunday of the water that would have been on my property if the berm wasn't in place. So thank you very much because this would definitely have inundated my leach field, but it will be an ongoing problem. So I would just like you guys to take a look at these pictures as well. But as far as giving them their money back when they have piles of dirt still on the property that something has to be done with, and a show of good faith, we've shown them plenty of good faith as a township, and they are not showing good faith in the building. They haven't even started their buildings yet, and there's been multiple problems over there. So I'd like you to keep that in mind as well before you hand money back to the Walters Group. Thank you.
Mr. Herman, could you just outline, I'm sorry, just give those photographs to our clerk? Thank you. Mr. Herman, would you just simply outline the prerequisites for this $15,000 to be returned and why it would be?
So this is for the soil haul route only. This is for the piece of West Farms Road that goes from their site out to Route 9, which is a very short strip of roadway. This is meant for when you have a mass import-export of soil. So that work was already completed. There are piles of material on there right now, which a lot of is topsoil. That topsoil will be used, that topsoil will stay on the site, and then eventually, once the buildings are completed and the site work is completed, that material will be spread around the site to be used as topsoil on the site. As far as the mass import-export of soil, that work is complete, which is what this bond was for, and therefore we're recommending that you return the bond as stated. Now, there are other bonds in place for the site work which are unrelated to this bond. We are not returning those bonds, and I know Ms. Kelly is concerned about some of the work over there. The Walters Group did install the berm. We worked with them for quite a while to get them to do that. I was also told that recently they will be extending some concrete work and driveway aprons for Miss Kelly to redo hers. I was told that this afternoon. I don't know if they have talked to you about that yet. The driveway and the curb.
Yes, per code, they have to do by apron because they have to repeat the curb after the last storage drain, and my driveway is right there. So per code, they have to give me an apron to
it's actually not code, it's us asking them and them agreeing because of some of the problems that have happened. They're trying to do the right thing. We've also had a noise complaint today about starting work early, which we are following up on. We were notified about, so we spoke to them. They claim they do not. However, we will authorize some overtime for a code enforcement official to sit out there one morning and make sure that their vehicles are not starting before 7 a.m. and things, which we do on occasion on other sites around town too, so this is no different.
Just to be clear, the $15,000 that you're recommending to return has nothing to do with anything else other
Nothing
than
to do with
the
that.
work that has already transpired between their property and Highway 9.
That is correct.
Okay, so I don't know that your apron is not involved.
No, it's not
Okay.
involved, but I just wanted to correct him. I was advised by CME, per code, 3 feet of curbing has to go after the last storage drain. My driveway is in that 3 feet. So therefore, because my driveway is there, the apron has to be done to follow code. Thank you.
I wrote the code. That's not what it says.
That's how it was explained to me.
Okay,
Walter's
well, that's fine. I mean, it's not here to, we're not here to argue about it. It's just, I'm trying to explain that the Walters Group, yes, they've had some problems with Miss Kelly. We've tried to address them, and we've further tried to address them as recently as today to get them to extend that work, the curbing and the apron for her driveway. So, you know,
And that will be
it's
taking
not, look,
place.
nothing is perfect, but we're trying to get them to work together and to work with Miss Kelly for what's gone on.
I
So
understand.
it's a give and take.
has been fighting for me right along, and Walter's Group has not wanted to give in 1 inch, just so you're aware. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on the consent agenda items? Seeing none, close this portion. All right.
Make the motion to move 9A1 to 9A22. I like to separate vote for motions on 9A23 and 9A24 after what I just heard. I'd like to separate them out.
I'm sorry, could you just separate them out because what? I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't hear you.
I just want a separate vote on 9A23 and 9A24. I like to move 9A1 through 9A22 only.
Is there a second?
Before we do that, I'm sorry to cut you. Hey, Jim, quick question on 9A. What Ms. Kelly was discussing, what item?
She's 23.
23. I think you said it, but I wanted to put this on the record and confirm that the work will continue, correct?
That is correct.
It's not going to impact the impediment, it's not going to prevent any kind of work being done. If they have an issue, they can call, and they'll be there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been in touch the entire time. Our staff with CME staff the entire time, weekly, daily, the whole nine. This is not going to impact anything. Work will continue. The other bonds will still be in place.
Okay.
This is only for that export-import of material that was done in the very beginning of the project.
Now, regarding code enforcement, do we have the ability to monitor on the weekends any potential violations of?
On occasions, we would authorize overtime for one of our code enforcement officials or officers to come in and sit at locations where we get complaints that things occur on the weekends. Typically, we refer all complaints like that to the police department at first, and then if the police department either can't get to it or they don't see something, or they do see something, then we will have our guys sit, document it, and if appropriate, issue violations.
I think I would recommend that we have overtime code enforcement to make sure that Saturday and Sunday there's no any potential violations of the code.
They do work on Sunday. I don't know what's permissible, but they do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Council.
No, I just want to make sure
I'm sorry.
that, because I know code enforcement works Monday through Friday. Typically, I want to make sure that we have some kind of enforcement in place for weekends. Track any violations.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Councilwoman?
Yeah, so Jim, I have a question. I know we, if I remember correctly, we tabled this from the last meeting, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I just want to know, if we do not pass this today, what is the, I guess, what would happen if we don't, what can they do to us if we do not release this bond to them?
Joe,
Joe,
would you like to-
somebody?
Short answer is we'll get sued. The longer answer is that they're going to tell us that they've performed under the terms of the bond, that they've done all the work that they're required to do under the terms, and that there's no good reason for not releasing it to them. So that's basically what we're going to be faced with.
So the cost of litigation, it could be potentially way more
The
than
cost of
15,000.
litigation will dwarf $15,000.
Okay, I just wanted that to be put on the record.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? Okay, we had a second on this, correct?
Well, I will second your motion, Mr. Bonovich, sorry.
Roll call, please.
Just to clarify, this is for,
Up to 9/8/22 only.
okay. Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. May I have a motion on 9A23 and 24, if you so desire to put them together? If not, take them apart.
Separate? Yeah, let's just state them separately. for the
Motion on
record.
9A23, please.
I'll make a motion for 9A23.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonovich?
Abstain.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. May I have a motion on 9A24, please?
I'll make a motion for 9A24.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Is there any conversation or questions on this?
Joe, is that allowed?
If we have a motion, there can be discussion on the motion. So
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Did you want to say something, Deputy Mayor?
We're clear?
Oh, I think so.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonovich?
Last meeting, we tabled 4 or 5 ordinances because we said we didn't have enough time to look at them. We didn't have more than 24 hours. I was here yesterday. This resolution wasn't there. And today it's there.
No, but
And-
it was
and we
discussed.
We agreed that we are not to add on last things so we could read things thoroughly, so we could be transparent. We have to stick with one way or the other. So I'm telling you right now, you don't need, there's no need to rush this. Right in this resolution, if you read it about the deputy clerk, there's a statute. It says, it's 227B. Whenever the office of the township clerk shall be vacant and unfilled, or the township clerk shall be absent from the township, or unable to serve by reason of disability or otherwise, the deputy clerk shall have all the powers to perform the duties of the vested township clerk. So there's no need to rush this, because it's a statute. She is the clerk. There's no need to rush something within 24 hours. And we just, we don't even know what she's getting paid, correct? Nothing against you, but there should be a standard. It's 24 hours or not 24 hours. We can't go back and forth every meeting. We're in the newspapers, the Howell Times. Brian, our manager, it's in the Howell Times. He said, council decided to pull the 4 ordinances on affordable housing because they didn't have enough time to review. Now we have enough time to review. One way or the other, we have to be consistent and transparent. So I'm voting no on this.
Well, with all due respect, I don't disagree with that, but I think when we sat in our
Pre-agenda?
pre-agenda meeting, we discussed this. Jim, Joe, you were there. Did we not discuss adding this to the agenda yesterday?
Well, did the public have more than 24 hours to see it? No.
I thought the agenda was corrected yesterday, was it not, Allison?
It was.
At what time? 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock
It
at
would have been
night?
after our
6:30.
agenda meeting.
6:30 it was out.
Listen, there's no rush. She is the clerk. When Penny is absent, she's acting. And that's what's going on. So there's no need to rush this resolution through. There's no need for it.
Well, if I could, we all know that while Penny is not here, that Allison would be acting clerk. That's clear, it's always been the
And the
case.
state statute, so why are we rushing it through? This resolution
I think-
cites the statute. Right in it, read it. Read it, we
and
just got
that-
it.
To me, that's not the question. I think that that's well understood by all of us, and that's what's been happening all along. I
Well,
think what
vote-
I was if
Vote
I
on
could.
it. Vote on it.
Well, I'd like to finish my sentence if I could. The idea was that she would become the actual clerk effective January 1. Am I mistaken on this?
So under the terms of the resolution, she'll be acting clerk for the period November 6th through December 31, and then she'll be the municipal clerk, in other words, Penny's role right now, beginning January 1st, 2020,
With amount of compensation unknown, correct?
to be consistent with the existing salary ordinance for the position.
Follow.
And this salary guide is in the packet, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you agree with that, Councilman Bonovich, that this salary guide is here tonight?
I don't know what her contract says, I don't know the amount, so can't answer it. We didn't get it.
Well, I don't believe that that's accurate. Joe, could you just clarify this for
The
me?
clerk does not have a contract.
Well, I don't know the amount. This is last minute. I'm not doing this. I'm not having one meeting, we have 24 hours, the next meeting, we have 17 hours. Let's just be consistent. The residents need to be able to digest this, read this. You know, we don't do that, then we're going to be called out on it. So you want to vote on it tonight? Let's vote on it. I have no issue with that. Vote on it.
Well, respectfully, I disagree. Is there any other comments from the council?
Just have a quick question for
Please.
Jim or Joe. The salary guide is in place, correct? We can't go over the salary ordinance, right?
No. That establishes the top of the range. Unless council moves to amend the salary ordinance, it is as it exists.
Okay. And can you put on the record, please, what that salary ordinance, what the cap is? I just want to know for my own.
For clerk or deputy clerk?
For clerk.
90,000.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from council?
So for Joe, or Jim, whoever, for on the record, the formality of passing this resolution, nothing changes for her duties, her salary, or anything like that, from now until,
From now until December 31st, she'll remain she will be acting clerk.
Correct.
And her salary will remain as if it's the deputy clerk position
So-
that she currently has. Beginning January 1, then she'll become municipal clerk, and then her salary will be within the range for that position.
okay. So nothing really has changed except for the resolution validating what she's doing now. Nothing has changed. I just need to
She
understand
will
that.
become the municipal clerk effective January 1st.
Okay.
And
Thank
until
you.
that point, her salary remains the same as it did yesterday, the last week, and last month.
Correct.
Thank you.
And her job duties.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? If not, a motion, please? To approve or deny?
We have the motion and second, and
on,
I
you
also
do?
have Mr. Bonovich's
I'm sorry.
vote.
I'm sorry. Actually, would
Miss-
you,
Should I just continue?
please, I'm sorry. It's been so long, I lost track.
Ms. Richmond?
No, I was just going to say, there's a motion pending with the second, so we can do a vote on it. And I know Councilman
vote no.
Bonovich has voted no.
I got waylaid. I apologize.
Ms. Richmond?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes. Seeing no motions, we'll move on to the ordinances. All right. The next ordinance provides for the various capital items. Ordinance number 01947, introduced and passed on first reading on September 24, 2019, and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of September 27, 2019, is submitted and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were made available to the general public upon request. Title of ordinance, please?
Just to clarify, that this is 1946, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Bond ordinance number O-19-46. Bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements and the acquisition of various capital equipment, appropriating $4,696,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $4,395,000 bonds and notes to finance a portion of the cost thereof, authorized in and by the Township of Howell in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey.
Open it up for comment. Thank you. I'll open up this portion of the meeting to the public for anyone wishing to make a comment on this ordinance.
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street. I just want to confirm, 4 million of this is road work, correct?
Yes. Roughly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the public or commentary? Seeing none. A motion on this ordinance?
I'll make the motion that ordinance number 0-19-46 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
I will second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next is 0-1947. Excuse me. This ordinance authorizes the acquisition of a permanent sanitary sewer easement in the portion of Block 144, Lot 125, as delineated specifically within the meter and bounds descriptions and the maps prepared by Mazer Consultants. Ordinance number 0-19-47, introduced and passed on first reading on September 24th, 2019, and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication on this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press of September 27th, 2019 is submitted and noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were made available to the general public upon request. Title of ordinance, please, Allison.
An ordinance approving the acquisition of easement rights in portions of the properties located at Block 144, Lot 125 by negotiated purchase or eminent domain.
Thank you. I'd like to open up public to this ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak? Questions, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll close this portion.
I'll make the motion that ordinance number 0-19-47 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 10/25 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
I will second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next is the introduction of ordinances. 0-19-48. This ordinance updates and amends the salary ordinance for the chief of police. May I have a motion for the ordinance, please?
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-48 on first reading by title, and to order the same to be published in the 10/25 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Sorry, Tommy.
Roll call, please.
I'll read the title of ordinance.
Aye.
An ordinance setting forth and amending and supplementing the salary range schedule for the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Thank you. Next is 0-19-49. It's the 2020 salary ordinance, non-union positions. This ordinance updates and amends the salary ordinance for all non-union employees. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-49 on first reading by title and to the order the same to be published in the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19, 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
I'll read the title of ordinance. An ordinance setting forth and amending and supplementing the salary range schedule for the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next, we have 0-1950.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-50 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 10/25 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
I
Do
will
I have a
second.
second? Read
Ti-
title.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 8 of the Township Code entitled Affordable Housing, repealing and replacing Article 1 entitled Affordable Housing Management Services and Article 2 entitled Municipal Housing Liaison, and creating a new article entitled Affordable Housing Regulations. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Okay, next is 0-1951. The township entered into a settlement agreement with the Fair Share Housing Center on or about October 9th, 2018, and an amended settlement agreement on November 20th, 2018. The court order approving the settlement agreements requires the township to amend its development fee ordinance to ensure it's in compliance with the current law, which is achieved with this ordinance. May I have a motion?
51, right?
51, 11.4.
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-51 on first reading by title and to the order the same to be published on the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and it will be further considered for final passage after a public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
I will second that.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance amending Article 21 entitled Mandatory Development Fees, deleting Section 188-179 through 188-186.1, and replacing it with a new Section 188-179 entitled Development Fees. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next is 0-1952. The Township of Howell filed a Mount Laurel declaratory judgment action in the Superior Court of New Jersey Law Division, bringing the caption of the, in the matter of the township application of the Township of Howell, docket number MONL 25215. The township, on or about October 9th, 2018, and an amended settlement on November 20th, 2018, establishing the township's third round affordable housing obligation for that period, 1999 to 2025. The court order approving the settlement agreements requires the township to adopt a zoning ordinance for the inclusionary project reference FP Howell LLC for the properties identified in Howell Township Tax Map as Block 110, Lots 166, 181, 182, Block 135, Lot 2, as to meet the obligation to create a realistic opportunity to provide for the township's fair share affordable housing. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-52 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Allison, please read the title.
An ordinance amending Article 10 of the Township Code entitled Zones, creating a new section 188-84.2 entitled Moderate and Low Income Housing Zone 12, to be known as ML 12. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next, we have 11.6, which is 01953. The Township of Howell filed a Mount Laurel declaratory judgment in Superior Court of New Jersey Law Division, bringing the option of the matter of the Township of application of the Township of Howell docket number MONL 25515. The township entered into the settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center on or about October 9th, 2018, and amended settlement on November 20th, 2018. Establishing the township's third round affordable housing obligation for the period 1999 to 2025. The court order approving the settlement agreement requires the township to adopt a zoning ordinance for the inclusionary project reference ZBAC properties for the properties identified on the Howell Township tax map as Block 137, Lot 22 to 26, and to meet its obligation to create a realistic opportunity to provide for the township's fair sharing obligation housing. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-53 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Read the title, please, Allison.
An ordinance amending Article 10 of the Township Code entitled Zones, creating a new section 188-84.3 entitled Moderate and Low Income Housing Zone 13, to be known as ML 13. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
No.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next is 01954, 11.1. The Township of Howell filed a Mount Laurel declaratory judgment in the Superior Court of New Jersey Law Division bearing the caption in the matter of township application of the Township of Howell docket number MONL 252515. The township entered a settlement agreement with the Fair Share Housing Center on or about October 9th, 2018, with the amendment settlement following on November 20th, 2018. It's establishing the township's third round affordable housing obligation for the period 1999 to 2025. The court order approving the settlement agreements requires the township to adopt a zoning group, LL, for the properties identified in Howell Township, lots 14, 15, 20, 35, 11, 12, 142, 145 to 150, 160 to 165, 165.01, 167, 177, 178, 178.01, 178.02, as to meet the obligation to create a realistic opportunity to provide the township's fair share affordable housing. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 01954 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/19 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
May I have a second?
Second.
Would you read the title, please, Allison?
An ordinance amending Article 10 of the Township Code entitled Zones, creating a new section 188-84.4 entitled Moderate and Low Income Housing Zone 14, to be known as ML 14. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
No.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Next, we have 01955, which is 11.8. The ordinance amends Chapter 711, amending the speed to 25 miles per hour the entire length of Frederick Avenue, and to follow the proper signage and placement of the signage to implement the amendments. May I have a motion?
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
This was a late add-on, so if we're going to go by our newfound rule that we can't add anything on late,
I apologize, I missed.
would you like to pull it and keep the speed limit raised, or would you like to continue?
Well, I'd like to open it up to the public, and I really would like to go forward with it because I think it's a matter of public safety. However, I will bow down to the consent of the remaining members of the council. Mr. Russo, Councilman Russo, would you like to go for it, or would you like to?
So, I'm sorry, Deputy
Go ahead.
Mayor. If we're going to table this, there should be a motion to table, followed by a second and a vote.
No comment, Joe?
Well, I'm questioning
We
whether or
can't-
not the council wishes to table it or to go forward.
Exactly. So if you'd like to table it, we should have a motion to table. There can be discussion on the
I'm
motion.
sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to table this?
I think this is a matter of public safety. I think we can make an exception. I think the public will understand, I would imagine.
Correct.
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-55 on first reading by title, and to order the same to be published in the 10/25/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on its first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage and after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/12/2019, at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Allison?
Title of ordinance, an ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 7-11 entitled Speed Limits and Schedule 16 in order to establish a reduced rate of speed. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. For informational purposes, the municipal offices will be closed Tuesday, November 5th, 2019, in observance of Election Day. Please go out and vote, folks. It is a privilege, not a right. Municipal offices are closed Monday, November 11th, 2019, in observance of Veterans Day. Again, your diligence and respect to veterans is truly appreciated by all veterans in this state and across our country. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes. Thank you. Good night. Drive safe.